Hi, everyone, and welcome to the release rundown for Friday, July 24th, 2026. I'm excited to walk you through everything that's new and everything that's coming in our shared payroll technology. First, a quick introduction. My name is Andy Metzler, and I'm a learning and development specialist here at Dominion Payroll. Before we dive in, I want to let you know that at Dominion Payroll, we're committed to keeping you informed about upcoming updates and advancements in our shared payroll technology. That said, please keep in mind that features, keys, and timelines may shift as iSolved, our technology partner, continues to innovate and refine the solution. Think of today's session as our best, most current picture of what's ahead. We really appreciate your flexibility and enthusiasm as we work together to deliver the best possible experience for you and your team. Now let's get into it. Here's what we will be covering today. We've got updates across four major areas plus a system health check at the end. First, on the benefits and HR side, an update to benefits guidance. Next, two payroll updates, the Gen 2 to Gen 3 screens expansion and changes to funding allocation balancing with the company GL. Then on the time side, a look at how drafted schedules can now count towards staffing requirements. After that, an update on the ATS, specifically the phased rollout of Job Match and Candidate Marketplace. And finally, we'll close out with system updates, issues we've identified and already resolved. And we'll start with benefits. Our first update is to benefits guidance and specifically the addition of a disability insurance benefit type. Benefits guidance now includes support for both short-term and long-term disability plans. What that means in practice is that employees using benefits guidance will now get personalized disability insurance recommendations right alongside the other benefit categories they're already used to seeing. This is a nice enhancement for any of you offering disability coverage because it means your employees get more complete, more tailored guidance when they're making benefits decisions instead of having to figure out disability coverage on their own outside the tool. It's one more way benefits guidance is becoming a true one-stop shop for benefits elections. Moving into payroll, our first update here is about the continued expansion of the Gen 3 experience. If you've been following along with previous releases, you know we've been steadily migrating screens from the older Gen 2 interface into the newer, more modern Gen 3 experience. This release adds even more screens to that list, including addresses, client options, pay item default values, and custom alerts. So as you're working in the system, you may start noticing these screens looking a little different, cleaner, more consistent with the rest of Gen 3. And I know change can sometimes feel like a lot all at once. So here's the good news. If you ever need to, you can temporarily switch back to the Gen 2 version using the revert option. So nothing is being taken away. You'll just have the option to ease into the new experience at your own pace. Our second payroll update is a behind the scenes one, but an important one, funding allocation balancing with the company GL. Essentially, labor and GL reporting now aligns more closely with how funding allocation calculations actually work. In plain terms, this means your net pay and direct deposit amounts will be allocated more consistently across the board. Why does this matter? Because in the past, some of you have run into small discrepancies between your GL reports and your funding allocations, numbers that didn't quite line up the way you were expecting. This update tightens that up, reducing those reporting discrepancies so that your GL reporting is more accurate and more trustworthy from the start. Less time reconciling, more confidence in your numbers. Now let's shift over to time and a really practical update for anyone managing schedules and staffing requirements. Administrators can now customize which shift statuses count towards staffing requirements using a new feature called countable statuses. Here's how it works. Previously, only approved shifts counted toward whether you'd met your staffing requirements for a given shift or day. Now you have the flexibility to also include drafted shifts, requested shifts, and requested coverage shifts. That's a meaningful shift in flexibility, especially for locations or departments that plan further ahead using drafted schedules or that rely heavily on employees requesting or picking up coverage shifts. One important note, by default, only approved shifts will continue to count towards staffing requirements. Nothing changes automatically. You'll need to actively go in and select any additional statuses you'd like included. So if this is a feature that you're interested in, keep an eye out for that countable statuses setting. Next up, an update on the applicant tracking system, specifically the rollout of Job Match and Candidate Marketplace. This is a feature we've talked about before, and we're happy to say that the launch is officially underway. Here's what the rollout timeline looks like. It's rolling out in phases from July 1st through August 19th, starting with our high usage customers first. That gives us a chance to gather real world feedback and make sure everything's running smoothly before it reaches everyone. Then, starting August 19th, we move into general availability, meaning all customers with Candidate Marketplace enabled will have access to Job Match. So if you're using Candidate Marketplace and haven't seen Job Match yet, don't worry, it is coming, just a matter of when you fall into that phased rollout. Let's move into our system updates section. As always, we want to be transparent with you about issues that we've identified, and more importantly, the fact that we have resolved them. First issue, some clients were unable to run the check history detail report. We tracked this down to a bug in the report rendering software that caused it to fail specifically when the report returned no data. That's been fixed, so the report will now run correctly, even in cases when there's nothing to display. Second, missed punches entered through the virtual clock could sometimes save with an incorrect date, time, or both. We've corrected this. Missed punch records now save using the exact date and time you entered every time. And third, in certain scenarios involving day start offsets, punch pairs would stop pairing correctly after a time card period was committed. We've corrected the punch pairing logic so that it stays intact through the commit process, even when overlapping records are present. A few more resolved issues to cover, plus one maintenance note. First, time entry in minutes was converting minutes to hours multiple times when manual checks were processed, which, as you can imagine, led to incorrect hour calculations. That has been fixed. Hours will now display and calculate correctly throughout payroll preview and processing whenever manual checks are issued. Second, punch records could sometimes disappear from the time card after a period was processed and unlocked or after adding new punches. We've resolved this as well. Punches will now remain visible after processing, unlocking, and editing the time card. There's also a maintenance note for those of you using the Employee Workspace or AEE. Total hours displayed on the time card was incorrectly including certain earning types that should not have counted toward the total. We've updated the time card so that non-accumulated earnings are now excluded from total hours calculations across all views. One important timing note on all of this. These items are scheduled to release this Monday, July 27th, 2026 at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. All of you should see these changes reflected in your systems by Tuesday, July 28th. And that wraps up the release rundown for Friday, July 24th, 2026. To recap, we've got a new disability benefit type and benefits guidance, continued Gen 3 expansion, tighter GL and funding allocation alignment, more flexibility in staff requirements, job match rolling out in candidate marketplace, and several resolved system issues landing coming this Monday. Thank you all so much for joining us today. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll see you next time.